Hello, Cougars, and welcome to How to Find Your Best Roommate. We're glad you could join us during this exciting time as you get ready for life at the College of Charleston. My name is Megan Rowe, and I'm the Director of Campus Housing. Joining me off camera are staff members from Campus Housing who are here to help answer some of your questions in the sidebar if we don't get to them live. During the presentation portion of this event, I'll show you how to search for potential roommates using the My Housing and Dining portal, and I'll also share some advice on things to discuss with potential roommates to help you find the best match for you. We'll do a Q&A at the end with both live and pre-submitted questions. If we don't get to your question during the live event, please email or call Campus Housing with your questions. I'll put that info on the next slide. Before we get started on roommates, I'd like to quickly go over some important housing dates for first-year students. The housing application is open, and all first-year students interested in living on campus must complete their housing application by May 1st at 11:59 p.m. in order to be guaranteed housing. Please also note that before you can apply for housing, you'll need to have paid your CofC enrollment deposit. Please do not wait until May 1st to pay your enrollment deposit, as it can take up to 24 hours for you to gain entry into the housing application after you have paid your enrollment deposit. Once you complete your housing application, you can feel free to go back in and make changes like finding a great roommate. The roommate portion of the housing application will be open until May 15th, but you'll have to have completed your application by May 1st. As a reminder, you will select your room in June based on the date you complete your housing application. I do want to share one more important note before we get into the details of roommate selection, and that's regarding private rooms and roommate groups. Students who want to try to get a private room should not form a roommate group, as students in a roommate group will not be able to select a private room. It is also important to note that once we close roommate group formation on May 15th, you will not be able to change or alter your roommate group. What that means is that you need to decide if your priority for housing is to have a private room or to pre-select who you will live with. Now, while many of you might want a private room, we want to be clear that there are less than 25 private bedrooms available for more than 2,000 students who will be selecting spaces. If there are no private rooms available, once it's time for you to select a room, you will room with whoever else gets to select into your same room during room selection. If you have already verified a roommate group, but now want to try to get one of the limited private bedrooms, please email us at housing@cofc.edu. Now on to what you came for, how to find your best roommate. If you've applied for campus housing, you should be quite familiar with the My Housing and Dining portal. To get to the roommate search tools I'm going to discuss, you'll need to log into the portal, click the Apply for Housing or Meal Plan button, and then continue with this year's housing application. The roommate selection page is where you'll be able to search for potential roommates. There are 3 ways to do this. You can search by a person's name or keyword. You can also search for answers to specific profile questions, like your preferences for staying up late as an example. Or finally, you can get roommate suggestions based on how you and potential matches answered all of your profile questions. I'll go in order of appearance, and we'll start with searching for a roommate by name or keyword. Using the search by name or keyword function, you can search for someone who might have similar interests to yours. For instance, you can search for someone who mentions basketball in their profile. Click Search for your results, and it will show you a potential roommate's name and the description they wrote about themselves. These are actual results, so we've covered up the descriptions for privacy, but you'll generally see a paragraph with things like hometown information, maybe what someone plans to major in, etc. You'll also notice that the circles next to the description showing, in this case, 60% and 57% match. This match percentage is based on your profile questions and not the keyword you searched for. At Campus Housing, we consider anything above 60% is considered a good match. From here, if you want to see how they answered their profile questions, just click the View Profile. Note here the Send Message button. I'll discuss that in a moment. On the View Profile page, you'll be able to see how they responded to all of the profile questions asked during the application process. By looking at this information, you can better determine if you might be a good match. Once you're done reviewing their profile, you can go back and look at other potential roommates. And that's searching for a keyword in a nutshell. You can also search for a student's name and follow the same steps. Another way to search for potential roommates is by profile questions. When you search for a roommate by profile questions, you may select one or multiple questions as the basis for your search. The results will show your top matches, and again, you can click View their profile to see how they responded to all of the questions. The third way to find a potential roommate is to use the Suggest Roommate functions. This option will show you the best matches based on your responses to all of your profile questions. Hopefully, after viewing some profiles through these search methods, you'll have found one or more students you'd like to room with. You've probably noticed that each of these have a send message option. You can click on that to compose a message or multiple messages to different people. You'll be able to communicate within the portal, or you can connect with them via social media or email. Sometimes students will include their handles or other contact info in their description, and I'd encourage you to do the same if that's your preference for communicating. At Campus Housing, we do encourage you to respond to any messages you get. Maybe the person who messaged you is not what you're looking for as a roommate, and that's okay. Just let them know that you're going in a different direction, but hope to see them around campus. This way, you're starting to build your CofC community before you even step foot on campus. Once you've found that perfect roommate and have both agreed you want to room together, you'll click the Add to Group button next to their name. If you haven't already formed a group, you'll be prompted to create one at this point. After you create the group, your request will go through to your future roommate. You will see your requests as outgoing requests. They will see your request in the roommate selection page where they can accept or decline your request. Requests expire after 2 weeks. Know that it's okay if you don't find a roommate match before room selection. If that's your preference, you'll live with whomever also chooses the room you select during the room selection process. Let's dig into roommate groups just a little bit more. First, roommate groups for incoming students must be an even number, with a max of 8 people, since that is our largest suite style for first-year students, has 4 rooms with 2-door room. It is important to remember that your group may end up living in a suite that holds more than just your roommate group members. For example, if you form a roommate group of 4, you may also end up in a suite for 8. Second, a group leader is the person who will select housing for the group. It can be any member of the group, and they'll be responsible for solidifying your roommate group by May 15th by clicking the Verify Group button. Group leaders can remove roommates from groups up until the time they verify the group. We also want to point out that timing for when you get to select your hall or room is not based on when the group leader completed their housing application. It will be based on the earliest completed application date among your roommate group. Finally, we want to be sure that you know that after roommate selection closes on May 15th, there are no changes to groups and students cannot add or remove any group members. I've talked a lot about the technical side of searching for a roommate, and now I want to give you some pointers on what to talk to your potential roommates about before you decide to room with one another. Residence Life, a department that we work very closely with, has a helpful guide to living with a roommate. You can find the guide on their website or the Campus Housing site, which is housing.cofc.edu. We've linked it in the roommate selection of the How to Apply page for incoming students as well. Residence Life has also included a worksheet that will be helpful to review as you're looking for a roommate and also once you're getting ready to move in with a roommate. Finally, please talk to your potential roommates about your budget for housing and the residence hall or halls that work for you. This is critical to discuss with your group leader since they will be the one that are selecting the space. We want you to find your perfect home away from home at the College of Charleston and encourage you to visit the Residence Halls page under housing.cofc.edu to view the variety of room styles, amenities like game room, lounges, and study rooms, and our 360 video tours of our residence halls. Know that all of our halls and houses have air conditioning, free washers and dryers, free high-speed Wi-Fi, and community kitchens, as well as spaces for hanging out. Every living space has either a micro fridge, kitchenette, or full kitchen. Our current pricing is on our website as well. When you're looking at it, know that the pricing is per person and per semester, but that the housing contract is for the full academic year. so both fall and spring semester. Our pricing is updated by the Board of Trustees each year, and we'll make a note of when it's been updated.
Thanks, Megan. All right, next we are going to move to some questions. We have some that were pre-submitted, and then we are going to be answering some questions live. We will be talking and hearing from Monica, who will be calling out the published questions for Megan to read and answer for you guys. So if you cannot find the Q&A button, there's a little notch at the top of your screen. It says Q&A. Click on that, and then you can submit your question.
Hello. I have two friends that have not committed to CofC yet, but are 90% sure. Can I put their names on a suite as I've committed, or do I need to wait until they're committed?
That's a good question. So what I would definitely encourage is for you to complete your housing application. You can always go back, as I've said, and add in roommates afterwards, but the date that you complete your housing application is very important. So because they have not committed to CofC yet, you won't actually be able to find them in the room search function. So what I would recommend is, going through completing your application, and then once they have committed and have also applied for their for housing, then you can go ahead, create that roommate group, and go ahead and add them, and then they would be able to accept. If you create a roommate group now, that's fine. You can do that and then and wait for them, but you can't actually send them an invitation to join the group until they have completed their own housing application.
When do most people complete the roommate section?
It's a good question. We've been seeing that definitely a lot of people are in there right now. My recommendation would be, don't feel like you have to complete this immediately. You have until May 15th in order to find a roommate. So as we get closer to May 1st, there's going to be more and more students that are added in there. So if you found someone and you're definitely sure that you want to room with them, great. Go ahead and form that roommate group. But maybe you want to expand that roommate group by more than just you and your direct roommate. Maybe you want to form a roommate group of 4 or 6. Take your time in messaging people and getting to know folks. We give you some time after the application complete date of May 1st to complete those groups, because we want students to be able to have those conversations with everyone and make sure that you are finding a roommate or suite mates that really work for you. So I would say, don't panic if you haven't done any of this yet. You're not behind. We have seen some people that are forming groups, but I would say a majority of people start to form those groups between May 1st and May 15th.
Can the college do a random selection based off roommate questions instead of roommate choice?
So you'll be selecting your own housing. So we do not randomly place students. And so if you do not form a roommate group, which is totally okay, some students just don't want to do that and want to be able to select housing on their own. If you do that, you'll be then selecting into likely a double room, and then another student will be selecting in there with you. So we do not randomly place people. We do not do any kind of matching. The way that our system is set up is so that it allows you to do all of that and find that perfect roommate match. But if you don't, know that you will still have a roommate. If you are selecting into a space after someone else, you'll be able to see information like their profile answers and stuff like that as you're going through room selection. But we don't randomly do any kind of matching process.
If you are a non-honor student, can you room with an honor student roommate in the honor suite?
That's a good question. So the way that it works for honors students, unless you are in one of the honors ELLC programs, which is kind of a subset of honors students, those students are going to be living with each other in just those suites. But outside of that, if you're interested in living with another honors student, you are more than welcome to form a roommate group with them. Honors students, we will send out more information about room selection for you, but essentially what will happen is that honors students will be able to select the day before room selection if you want to live in Berry Hall. And so students that are in a roommate group with honor students, if it is more than 50% honor students in the group, you will be able to select at that point. You can also, if you're an honor student, you don't have to form a roommate group, of course. You'll be able to select on your own, but you can certainly choose to live with an honor student if you are not an honor student.
I understand there are only 25 single rooms, but can you share how many dorm units are for 2, 4, 6, and 8 students?
Ooh, that's a good question. So there's a lot. And as a reminder, know that a space, if we look at a space like Buist Residence Hall, so Buist is kind of what we would consider to be a traditional double room. So, you've got a bunch of rooms along a hall, room 200 has 2 people, room 201 has 2 people, room 203 has 2 people. So in that situation, if you were a roommate group of 2, you could obviously select into there. You could also potentially select into a space like McAllister. McAllister is a building that's currently under renovation, but when it reopens, it's going to have suite style rooms. So that's 2 or 3 bedrooms. So as a roommate group of 2, you could select into, say, bedroom A, and then there would be another group that would select into bedroom B. So if you're in that smaller roommate group, it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of what buildings you can go into. I don't have all of the numbers off the top of my head, but what we do is we make sure, and the reason that we kind of close the roommate group formation on May 15th, and then you all start room selection in June, is we take time to make sure that we are going to be able to accommodate all groups. And so we work really hard behind the scenes to make sure that groups are able to stay together and that you're able to see into those spaces and get the space that hopefully you are most interested in. But we don't have a total count of how many of each of those. I will say that as you kind of go up in numbers, we do have quite a few suites for 8 people. 6 would be kind of a lower number than 8. We have a lot of 4s and we have a lot of 2s.
What if you want a private room? Would you be able to choose the people in your suite?
Sure. So if you're looking for a private room, you will not be able to form a roommate group. So if you are trying to get one of those very limited spaces, there's less than 25 private rooms on campus. You don't have the option to form a roommate group because at that point you're deciding that it is more important for you to have your own space than to choose who is in the suite with you. So again, that's a choice that you're going to make. If for some reason you make that choice and then you get to room selection and there's not a private room available, you'll still obviously select a space. You will select then into a double room, and another person that's likely on their own as well will also be able to then select in as your roommate.
What happens if I don't find a roommate by May 15th?
Sure. So don't worry. That happens. A lot of students end up selecting on their own. So you're still going to be able to participate in room selection, and your room selection would still work the exact same way as it would for a group. Essentially, when we send out information about room selection and you get to that room selection date, instead of a group leader going in and selecting for multiple people, you will be going in and you will be selecting a space for yourself. So that would be, again, likely in a double room. And so you'll be able to see all the spaces that are available. You'll select that. If you're selecting into a space, let's say that you're selecting that space in Buist and there's already someone that has selected into that room. When you select in, you will be able to see more information about them. You'll be able to read their profile questions or that profile description that they've written about themselves. If you are the first one to select into the space, then obviously when the next person selects in, they'll be able to see that about you. And obviously, once they've selected that space, you'll be able to see information about them as well. But you'll still participate in room selection. And don't worry if you don't end up finding a roommate group. A lot of students end up going through room selection just by themselves.
If I do my housing application now and not wait for my roommate to commit, will she be able to join my group? Will random people be able to join my room? I want to do a suite.
Sure. So good question. So it's really important that you complete your roommate, your housing application now. Think about it kind of like waiting in line, right? You want to make sure that if someone's going to, get a spot, that they're also in line. So you want to be able to get into that line. And the way that you would do that is by completing your housing application. So you would complete your housing application. Once your friend commits, great, then they would go ahead and complete their housing application, and then you form that roommate group. So if you form a roommate group now, and somebody messages you to say they want to be in your group, if you're the one that has formed the group and you're the only one in it, then you're going to be the group leader. So it's not like anyone can add themselves to a roommate group without you knowing about it. So that's part of the way that the process works. If someone messages you and says, hey, I want to be, your roommate, you can always say, actually, I have another roommate already. See if they might be a good suite mate. If you're looking to form a suite, let's say of 4 people, then you may be looking for other suite mates, and you can certainly form that roommate group with the suite mates. So it's all one thing. If you want a direct roommate or if you want suite mates, it's all the same process of forming that roommate group.
To access these pages, do I need to pay the decision deposit?
Yes. So the way that you're able to get into the housing application and the way that you would be able to participate in the roommate group selection portion is by paying your enrollment deposit. It takes about 24 hours from the time that you pay that enrollment deposit to gain entry into the housing application. Once you complete your housing application, meaning that you've signed your housing contract and clicked the save and continue button at the bottom, you will then get to that roommate selection page and be able to see all of these. So it is important that you pay your enrollment deposit, and then 24 hours after that, you will be able to get in and apply for housing and find a great roommate.
When I do my housing application, do I have to choose my preferable hall right away?
Great question. So most of you will probably notice you did not get an opportunity to select a hall. The only students that got an opportunity to select a hall are bridge students. Bridge students select a space because they are the only students that are assigned housing. So everybody else, if you're not a bridge student, you didn't get to preference any space because you are going to be selecting your own space. So a lot of colleges don't allow first-year students actually to select their own space, but we really wanted to make sure that our students had the most choice possible. And so that's why you will participate in room selection. So we don't ask where you want to live because you're going to choose it on your own. And so asking that would give the impression that we are going to assign you, but since we're not going to and you're going to select, by the time that you get into the room selection, you'll be able to see all the spaces that are available and select directly from there.
Are there only girls on one floor and boys on another floor?
Great question. So we have one building that is female only, and that is Buste, because Buste has a shared bathroom, a community bathroom on the floor. Every other space it is by suite. So if you're thinking of a building like McAllister, right, room 101 may be a male suite, room 102 may be a female suite, because there's no connection between them, right? There's an exterior door, and so most of our housing is set up in that way that it's suite style, and so within that suite, you would find either males or females.
Is it better for an honor student to be the group leader if there are only one non-honor students in the suite?
So it's up to you if you want to do that. Anybody can be a group leader. It's not going to hurt you if the honors student is not the one that is the group leader. If someone is in honors and is in a group, as long as it is more than 50% honors, they will get to select on that day before room selection begins. But they will be selecting into Berry Hall. The only hall that is available on that day before room selection for honors is Berry, because that's where the honors program is. But it doesn't matter. So even if a student is a non-honor student and is the group leader, they would still get to select on that day as long as the roommate group is at least 50% honor students.
How will I know what dorm, hall, or building is the best fit for my roommate and I?
It's a good question. So I would definitely recommend checking out our website, housing.cofc.edu, and looking at the residence halls page. From there, you'll be able to see each building and read about the building. You'll be able to see pictures of the building, take that 360 video tour, even look at floor plans. And from there, start talking about what is important to you. So I would talk about definitely, obviously, price, but also what amenities are there. You know, some of our spaces are full apartments with a kitchen. And for some students, that's really important. While other students, you know, that might not be as important. And you may be looking for something that's a little bit more affordable. Maybe you're trying to, you know, live in a certain part of campus. And so that might be important. So having those conversations together as a roommate group, I think, is really important. And then as we get closer, we will be doing the same kind of presentation where you can log in and learn more about room selection. But one of the things that we're going to be recommending at that point is that you go through and basically make a list from your top choice all the way down to the lowest choice so that you're prepared. And so having those conversations, it's different for every student, but I think having those conversations as a roommate group to say what's important will really help you decide on what those preferences would be for both of you.
Are honor students required to live in Berry Hall?
Honor students are not required to live in Berry Hall unless you are part of one of the Honors ELLC programs that has a residency requirement in Berry. And they would tell you up front, obviously, about that, or you would apply for that program. But outside of that, honor students are not required to live in Berry.
What percentage of expected freshman class has already accepted and applied for housing? Example, for a student who accepts next week, how far down is the selection list will they be?
Sure, I don't know that off the top of my head, but I can tell you that generally we see the largest spike in people applying for housing starting basically April into May. And so that's the time where we see a majority, and I would say probably upwards of 50% are doing that. It's different every single year, and obviously it's dependent on a lot of pieces. But I don't want students to think that they're behind if they haven't already applied. Certainly, we encourage folks that have already paid their enrollment deposit to apply as soon as possible. But I don't want anyone to think that they're behind at this point.
Is the room selection random, or is it first come, first served?
Sure, good question. So it is based on the date that you complete your housing application. So the sooner you complete the housing application, the better. And again, if you have formed a roommate group, so let's say, Monica, you and I are in a roommate group, and of course you are a go-getter. You were, in there the first day that the application opened on February 1st, and I am not so much, and I wait and don't apply until April 15th. But we form a roommate group. That's really good for me, because what that does is that allows me to be pulled up with you and be selecting based on your completion time of housing. So everything is done by the date that you complete your housing application.
How can I update my profile description?
Sure. So you can update any part of your housing application. By doing that, you just log back in, you click the same Apply for Housing and Meal Plan button. You will then select the term, and then you'll be taken directly into your application. So what it does is it will automatically take you to the last page that you were at, or the completion page. But along the top of the button, or along the top of the page, you will notice bubbles, and it describes basically what was in each page. So look for the page that says profile questions, and from there you'll be able to click on that, and you can update anything, update those answers. At the bottom, click Save and Continue, and you're good to go.
I believe this may be our last question. Will your room and board rate change based on where you stay on campus?
Sure, good question. So on that housing page, so housing.cofc.edu, under the residence hall section, you'll notice on the original kind of landing page of that it lists all of the halls, and it lists the halls that are available for first year students. What you'll notice is you'll see up above it will talk about the halls that for this year, right? The 22-23 academic year halls. Those have prices next to them. Obviously, the reason that the halls for next year don't have a price next to them is because the Board of Trustees sets those rates. So as soon as those rates are set, we will post that. But there are differences in prices, and you can get a sense of what those differences are by looking at the current year's rates. And those prices are based off of amenities that are within the hall, as well as the condition of those spaces. So I would use those as a guide, but know that that information will be updated on our website as soon as we have it.
Sorry to tease you, Monica and Megan, but we still have questions coming in, so we're still letting them.
It's okay. Is the housing/roommate process any different for transfer students who are going in as a junior?
Good question. So certainly we love, and I love that there are hopefully some transfer students on here. So the process works the same way. Your room selection time may be a little bit different. We will communicate out directly with transfer students. The transfer application process is open as well. But you can participate in the same way. You'll be able to search for students to be in a roommate group. And if you have specific questions, we're certainly happy to answer them, but you will still participate in room selection the same way. It just may fall at a slightly different time, but we'll communicate with directly with you as we get closer to the May 1st deadline.
When will the new info, pics, and pricing on McAllister be updated and become available for online viewing?
Good question. I was actually in a meeting earlier today about McAllister, and everything is coming along great. Please know that I want to get pictures up there, but none of the interior finishes are done. And don't worry, there's plenty of time. We're still on schedule for that. But as soon as those are done, we'll have them available. But honestly, likely that will probably not happen until after room selection in June. If we have the opportunity to take any kind of interior photos before room selection, we will, but you can certainly utilize the guide of other spaces. The spaces are going to have the same type of furniture as in other residence halls. So as we get closer, if we're not able to put up pictures, what we may do is we may put some example photos from other halls to give you a sense of what that might be. But of course, we want the building to finish on time, and there's a whole lot of moving parts with that. And so unfortunately, we haven't been able to put up any of those photos at this point. But the building is certainly going to be really nice and refreshed, and we can't wait to have you. We will be trying to get an updated floor plan on there, but I can tell you that all of the pieces that were done, we did not change any like walls or anything like that. So it's not like we have completely redone the setup of the building. It is still going to be 2 or 3 bedroom suites. Each of those bedrooms is going to have its own bathroom. So as soon as we can, we will have that information up on that page.
Is there a schedule for move-in dates for the residence halls yet? Would like to know which day move-in will be. Understand it will either be the 18th, 19th, or 20th of August, but would like to already know.
Sure, understood. So yes, there is some information on our move-in page, those dates, the 18th, 19th, and 20th. The way that move-in will work is that students will be selecting they will be making a move-in appointment. So move-in appointments are done by hall. So the reason that we can't have you decide now what day you're moving in is because we don't know what hall you're going to be in. And it's important that we know what hall you're going to be in and that you select based off of that, because what we do is we make sure that not everybody shows up at the exact same time. Because if any of you have been down to Charleston, you know that we have limited space on streets. We want everybody's move-in experience to be the best that it can be. And so what we need to do is we need to spread out those move-in times. So our goal is that we will have information up and ready for you all to start selecting those move-in appointments in early July. And so we will certainly send information, but once room selection is complete, then we'll be able to move forward with more move-in information. If you're trying to make a plan now, that Friday and Saturday, the 18th and 19th, are the traditional move-in days for first-year students. The 20th is certainly you can opt to come. That's what we call a non-supported move-in day. So you can certainly still come and move in and get your key, but there will not be any street closures. There won't be as many staff members here to help you. So those Friday and Saturday dates are what you should be focusing on at this point, but you'll be able to pick the specific date and time that you wish to come once the move-in appointments are released.
Is freshman selection the same date and time as upperclassmen?
Actually, returning students have already selected their housing. So they select, they apply, they start applying at the same time, but they went through their housing selection earlier this semester. So that part is complete. And so they're already kind of into their spaces. And first year and transfer students will be the ones that will then be selecting in June.
One more slow one coming in. I was gonna, real quick, while the other one's loading, I was gonna ask, we had a couple questions on here about Instagram profiles for kind of looking for folks. And I didn't have the information for that before Megan would have gotten to it. And so we deleted it from the thing, so we didn't make her stumble. But if you are having trouble with that, I'm gonna go ahead and give you my email address, and you can send me your information and I will try to route it to the correct person if that is someone on campus, because there are some groups that are managed through the CofC social media, and then I believe there are some that are managed by whoever. And so my email address is englishm@cofc.edu, and you can just email me that with your information and I'll just try to get it routed to the right person. And that is all I have to say for now. All right, Monica.
For freshmen planning Greek Rush, are they able to move in earlier, or do they stay in a hotel with family prior to moving?
Sure. So students, this would be female students that will be participating in recruitment for the fall. We will have an early move-in day. That is Wednesday. The early move-in is in the afternoon. We have not sent out specific, obviously, times yet. Students that are participating in recruitment will sign up for recruitment. And actually, the Greek Life office sends us that information. So we will already know who is participating in that, and you will be automatically added to the early move-in on that Wednesday. And we will give you more specifics of the time and everything like that, just so that you can do some planning. Though it will be in the afternoon. But again, more information on that as we get closer. And also there will be more information on that as you sign up for recruitment.
Do transfer students move in on different days than freshmen?
No, actually, transfer students, first-year students, and returning students all are moving in at the same time. So those same dates of the 18th, 19th, and 20th. So you'll participate in getting a room selection time or a appointment for move-in at the exact same time. So everybody moves in together. If you are a transfer student or a first-year student that's participating in that very last orientation right before regular move-in, you would then also be eligible for early move-in on that Wednesday.
Looks as if that's all the questions we currently have.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. From everyone at Campus Housing, we are so excited to have you on campus, and we hope to see you on campus before the fall, certainly this summer during orientation. If there's any questions that we can answer in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out. But we look forward to seeing you in the fall. Go Cougars.
Related to that, don't hate me. An orientation housing question did just come up, and so perfect timing. If you want to go, so for orientation, do we stay the night in a college dorm, or what is the plan with that? So if we should go ahead and share some more details.
Sure. Thank you for that last minute question. So yes, so for students that are coming for orientation, we would love to have you stay on campus. You will be staying in Liberty Residence Hall. That process will be opening within the next couple of days, actually, for you to be able to sign up for housing for orientation. You'll do that in the same place that you sign up for housing during the year. It'll just be a different button. There is some more information about that on our webpage. Just look at the apply for housing section and look for orientation housing. But housing is available for either 1 or 2 days. So basically the night before the first day and obviously between day 1 and day 2. And then we also offer housing for transfer students that are coming to those orientation sessions. It's 1 day because it's obviously your orientation is only 1 day, so it would be the night before orientation. But more information can be found on our website, and we would love to have you stay in Liberty with us. And with that, we will go ahead and close. Again, if there's any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we look forward to seeing you this fall.